Before we get started tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the episode here of Fast Break on IE Sports Radio, I want to talk to y'all about the last 9 years of the company. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports teams around the country. All the while, we continue to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we're ready to the next step. You go to our website, iSportsRadio.com. You'll see 5 different Patreon links and 5 different tiers. The first one starts at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on our segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your great feed for all in sports. I want to shout out for Patreon members: Bear Rays, Marcus, Los Great, Keita Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you to everyone for making our 9th anniversary special. And here's many more years to come. Now on to the show. On tonight's show, we'll discuss Game 5 matchup on Monday between the Heat and the Nuggets. Who will come out top and can Denver finish the job Monday, or we're going back to Game 6 in Miami. If the Nuggets win on Monday night, what would Nikolai Jokic's legacy would be winning this championship? Will he be the best international superstar, surpassing Dirk, or he still got work to do? Or there's another one who's around the same age named Giannis, got that crown. Plus, we'll discuss what the Miami Heat need to do to win Game 5 and take it back to Miami. And also, I, myself, Davidson, did a mock draft for IESportsRadio.com. We'll go for it, skim through it and talk about that live on the show. And see what y'all think of the mock draft that I wrote. We'll discuss that and much more here on Fast Break Live on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all in sports, and you're welcome to join us. And join us as you shout out tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to talk about, lots to get into here on the broadcast here tonight. Shout out to the chat. How y'all doing tonight? Everything going good? Hope y'all Sunday's going good. My Sunday's been pretty good, except for a crazy lady knocking my damn door like a nut. But other than that, everything's good. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
Everything is going pretty well, man. Shout out to all the young ladies and men that competed at Nationals, college track and field this past weekend, and congrats to those that won. So I've been pretty busy watching a lot of track and field races, and while tuning into the finals, which look like it's going to be over in this next game.
Yeah, lots to talk about there in the finals, and we'll go over like both sides and what they're going to do. How can they win Game 5 on their respective sides, all that good stuff. And then, like I said, later on, when we get done dissecting, go over like Game 4, dissecting Game 5, go over the mock draft that I wrote for IE Sports Radio, which I can check on iSportsRadio.com on the blog site. So do please check that out. Took a little time to do that, researching, kind of remember how players play, all that good stuff. So do check that out on iSportsRadio.com. But let's dive into it. Game 4 happened this past Friday, D-Lock. The Nuggets win 108-95. Nikolai Jokic was in foul trouble for most of it, but it was a play of Eric Gordon throughout the game that kind of kept his team afloat and to keep contribution off the bench of Bruce Brown really put the Nuggets over the hump, and they're up 3-1 in this series. You said that Miami's going to lose on Monday. What does Denver need to do to close out the series in 5 in Denver at home to win their first NBA championship?
Well, I think that they need to stay aggressive. I'm thinking right now, Miami's going to come out swinging. I believe it was Gabe Vincent that came out and said that they'll be going to game 6. He's already guaranteeing that Miami is the perfect team to be in this situation because they fight hard. They're coached very well also. So for me, I think that this is the opportunity that is going to give Miami a chance, to go for game 6. But I think Denver is going to bring, a lot of energy. And if they can do that at home, obviously we know how hard it is to win in Denver for away teams. If these teams can actually, if Denver can actually put it together for one more game, stay physical. If Jokic doesn't get into foul trouble, I think this game could be done fairly quick. I also think that we may see Tyler Hero this game. At this point, it's a 3-1 series. You don't have that many other options on the bench. I think this is a chance that we may see, Tyler Hero some type of minutes because that is exactly what Miami's missing. So I think that, right now for Denver to close out this game, if they can get a very rare sighting of Michael Porter, who we probably will talk about later, if he can have a pretty decent game also, these other guys can get cooking. I think it'll make it a hell of a easy on Jokic, and they'll host their first trophy. Also, if that does happen, I think Jokic will be MVP.
I agree with you there about the Miami Heat on Tyler Hero. I think it's do or die. Throw him out there, see how he is for a few minutes, and if you ain't up to snuff, then you just send him back down. You just call it a day there. And if you win game 5, maybe try it again in game 6, see get going. Because going back to game 4, there was like a little rut right there that Miami had in that second half that they couldn't get the scoring going. And like you mentioned, Tyler Hill would be perfect in that spot, especially in that second unit, to get something going. Caleb Martin, as foul as he's been playing this playoffs, really hasn't been here in the finals like we envisioned. I think he only had like 11 points off the bench, but still, it wasn't like the 18-20 we were seeing in the Boston series. So, if you get Hero back, I think they probably cut Martin's time. Highsmith probably won't get a run if that's the case. And Davidson, Max Strus, they both of them played 19 minutes apiece, and they didn't shoot the ball well at all. And we saw game 2, those guys hitting the shots and stuff like that, they go a long way in Miami's favor. But if they ain't hitting and stuff like that, then those guys are back on their warm-up, sitting on the bench watching Kyle Lowry get 30-plus minutes. So, for Miami to win game 5, Strauss, Vincent, they got to be on their game. If Tyler Hero comes in and plays well with that second unit, it'll go a long way for them to win that game. You know, but I think the thing that's been hurting them is Eric Gordon. You know, Eric Gordon is kind of like got too much of that combination of size, strength, and agility that he can play inside. I mean, inside out. And if he gets these favorable matchups against, like, like Caleb Martin, Struz, Kevin Love, then he's taking advantage of those. Then, like, if Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo gets on him, then you leave him like Jokic on a smaller guy. And Miami, small as it is in their starting lineup, let's be real about that. Bam's like 6'8", 6'9". Kevin Love 6'9". Jimmy Butler is 6'7". So, no 7-footers there. So if you get that switched off and Jokic is 7'1", he got a nice height advantage over those guys. And then if you go to the bench, even like when Cody Zeller comes in, Joker's been punishing him. Going to kind of have his way with him at times. Which I'm kind of surprised they don't play like Udonis Haslem for a few minutes to see what you get out of that. Like an old, tough veteran that can bring some toughness on that lineup and maybe give the team a different look. But after that, Martin and Doug Robinson, your next guys you bring off the bench. And Robinson can't, defend for shit. And Martin's pretty decent, but, he can't sustain that, high play at defense like that. So, I think that's the thing that been kind of killing Miami in the series. Eric Gordon, 27-7-6 last game. And I think if Denver wants to close it out, he's got to be the key contributor. And yes, you want Murray to shoot a little bit better. And Joker's not being foul trouble. But if Eric Gordon can stay consistent, it'll go a long way for them to win tomorrow's next game.
Yeah, and that's the Eric Gordon that we didn't see in Orlando.
You damn skippy.
I mean, this Eric Gordon right here, he would do wonders in Orlando, and I ain't blaming him, because right now he's, you put a pretty good player in a really good spot. They're gonna look a hell of a lot different, and that's what we're seeing. So to whereas, my Orlando Magic, not necessarily the brightest spot for a player, let alone a superstar, let alone a player to be. So, but like you said, if he can bring some great energy, it's going to ease a lot of pressure off Jokic, and that's basically what the Nuggets want to happen. Because Jokic is going to be Jokic. He's going to get his numbers. But if he can be fluent and efficient with it, he might be talking about a easy 15 to 20 point victory. But for that to happen, you need these other guys to get going. Michael Porter has not yet to have that game. So we've seen Eric Gordon have flashes, and if he brings a very similar energy, him and Bruce Brown, he can bring that similar energy to this next game tomorrow. Denver might get his first title.
And let's talk about Michael Porter Jr. real quick. Back in 2021, September 2021, he got that big contract extension for Denver. And it's fair to question, I understand you paying for future potential and play down the line, which I never understood why these NBA owners, GM managers do that stuff. And then they won't cry wolf and around the next negotiation deals and stuff like that, saying, well, you players don't play much and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. But then y'all the ones giving out these big contracts just for the fuck of it. But that's another conversation for another day. But back to him. He get this big contract, paying him like a max salary, like superstar level. 5-year, $172 million, with hitting the $200 million mark if he makes All NBA any point in that stretch. I mean, at times in his playoff run, he's been okay. But we kind of saw in his last game, D-Lock, like, he didn't close. Bruce Brown closed. And Bruce Brown, another thing that kind of favored in Denver's way of winning that game was Bruce Brown's play, especially in that fourth quarter against Miami. My question to you, do the Nuggets need to have Porter Jr. have a strong game to win this series, or should he be a factor in this to help them win, or do they have enough guys in like Jokic, Murray, Gordon, and Bruce Brown at the bench to kind of close the deal?
Not necessarily. I don't think that Michael Porter needs to have one of those extraordinary games of dropping 21 or 24 points, because this is what makes the Nuggets so good. They have hella guys that can get started. We talked about it off air. Possibility of them trying to possibly move him and trying to get some money, get something for him in off season, because they got so many guys over there. I don't think that him having a very good game is needed for them to win. I think him having a very good game is a bonus for them. I think if he has a good game, this game will be over in the third quarter. And if he starts to catch fire from three, I think Jamal Murray, Jokic, that duo is going to be that. They're going to be themselves. They're going to do what they do. But if you let Eric Gordon start to have a sneaky good game, and then Michael Porter comes around and starts to drain his threes, I mean, this could get ugly. And that's the thing that we know about. They're so deep. They give a chance for Jokic to get that rest, so where all these other guys can get going. And usually what happens is in games like this, we start to see the players that don't really do anything all series, they start to wake up. And they give them that, that energy. So I don't think it's needed for them to win, but I definitely think that their role players are going to have to be pretty efficient for them to get this victory. I think that Miami is just very well coached and physical, regardless of who they have outside of Jimmy Butler. So they're going to make it tough. So I think guys like a Michael Porter, guys like a KCP, guys like a Bron, they're going to have a decent game just to, kind of clear this game out, because I think Miami is going to battle to the end. But if Michael Porter does have that game, oh, man. Like I said, I see a 15 to 20 point game victory for the Nuggets.
And, if he contributes real big, I mean, that'll go a long way for them. But, we kind of talked about this off air. The way they kind of constructed right now, and the way he really hasn't, it's like, if he has a big game, yeah, they'll put them over the top. But it seems like if he doesn't, then, it's not the biggest thing in the world, because you got Jokic, you got Murray, Eric Gordon really come to his own. Bruce Brown's played excellent this year. Caldwell Pope has had his moments. And then you got Christian Braun, the rookie, who's, you hope only to get better at his position. Do you kind of still high on him? If you finish out and win this series, do you still high on Michael Porter Jr.? And say, hey, if you're Calvin Booth, the GM of the Nuggets, if if you were him, like, do you still high on him and maybe flush out the roster a little bit better?
I think they possibly do, because for one, and the thing that kept me was the fact that you told me he was 24 years old. That's extremely that's very young in the NBA. So I think that he can be a piece. I mean, you look at teams how the NBA is going right now. Hell, we're seeing teams literally shoot threes more than anything right now. So he kind of fits what the NBA is looking for right now, how the NBA is moving. We all give credit to Steph Curry for jacking up them damn threes from half court and making them. Now this is what the NBA is starting to be like. So, possibly, like I said, you possibly could sell high on a guy like a Michael Porter who has the length, who can, like you say, he can get to the rim, but he also can shoot from anywhere. So just imagine if he goes to a team like a Golden State. They already got the shooters. They already need, spread the floor a little bit, or maybe possibly Atlanta. That these those shooters, or Sacramento. That's just throwing out a couple of teams that definitely will take, an extra shooter. So I think that, him being able to shoot like that and being so young, I was never, I definitely would. Another reason too is because, like I said earlier, this team is so deep. Like, I think that what we see from Michael Porter right now is very a small glimpse because of the other guys he has around him. I mean, really thought about the realistic pecking order for me in Denver. You got Jokic number one, Jamal Murray number two. I would say Aaron Gordon number three. And then that's when you start to see decisions between Michael Porter, KCP, Bruce Brown comes in the mix. So you're not really seeing Michael Porter literally, his full potential in my mind. Now, granted, he's not shot that well throughout this whole playoff hell. I think also because of the rotation, how this team is set up, somebody's going to be the oddball out. And the reason why I believe that Eric Gordon moves up to three is because we've seen multiple times where Denver put out a five out there without Jokic, and they would have Gordon at the five. So Gordon is grabbing rebounds and getting shots, getting putbacks. So for me, like I said, I would look at him as a big sell. Now, granted, that contract is crazy as hell. I think it'd be hard to have somebody take that contract. But one of the things that I would sell upon that is he's only 24 years old, and he could be part of, another growing, young team. So if I'm Denver, I'm definitely, considering it because you definitely probably can add, a few more pieces, and if you really wanted to, man, you really could move Eric Gordon to the three. He's so versatile, like you can move him all over the place. So he kind of could take that role, and probably fill in other spots. Hell, to be honest with you, I probably would go get another center. They ain't even using Thomas Bryant, and DeAndre Jordan ain't doing a damn thing either. So I probably would get, another rotational guy, that can get some minutes. But again, yeah, off of Michael Porter, that would be a big thing that probably can help them moving forward. But again, at 24, could make a big difference on another team. I'm definitely selling high.
Yeah, before I get to my question, and my point, closing point on Michael Porter Jr. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Terry Rodriguez. How you doing tonight, sir? Hope all things is well with you, sir. Terrence saying Miami has nothing to lose, but their backs are against the wall. I don't know. He said, I just don't see how the Heat pulled Cavs back in 2017. Yeah, unless Jimmy Butler really, really goes off, and Bam, has strong games, and those other role players that we mentioned have strong games, then Miami has a chance. And Denver kind of really just kind of wets the bed. Like they continue to get Jokic in foul trouble. Murray don't show up, and they really, really got to depend on Eric Gordon, which you really can't do that. If that happens, yeah, Miami has a chance, but I don't see that happening at all. And then, he mentioned the Sparks are tied against the one win Minnesota Lynx at halftime. Yeah, the Lynx, damn, they just kind of took a dive here lately. But, hey, I'll say this. If the Minnesota Lynx continue to suck, coming to that draft next year, got old girl from Iowa, and I think somebody else too. I just can't touch on her. I can't touch her name right now. Oh God, what's that other girl's name? It'll come to me here in a little bit. Not Angel Reese. Some people are saying Angel Reese, and she's a couple years away. Got the girl from Iowa. There's some other player I'm thinking of right now, but it'll come to me here in a little bit. But my closing thoughts on Porter Jr. though, D-Lock. I think there's a one time years ago that people like me who kind of follow these high school kids, keep up with them and stuff like that. There was one time that some of us saw him as like number 1 overall pick. And, the back injuries happened, at Mizzou. He came back, helped them get to, I think, the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 around that point. Helped them do there. The back injuries and stuff kind of slid him down that draft. And Denver was wise to pick him up at that point. I mean, I would have done it too. But, I know they see stuff different from us. Two guys right here talk about him, during practice, all that type of stuff, and the diagnosis and all that good jazz. But I'm just thinking, just because you win a championship with somebody don't mean you keep the same crew around. Those early Lakers teams, the Lakers teams in 2000s. I kind of wish, that if you're gonna get rid of like a Glenn Rice, who maybe should have kept him around a little bit longer. I know he had to beef his Phil, but if you're gonna do that, you gotta get somebody at least on that level. In my eyes, at least somebody younger. If you look at those Cavs teams, that return with LeBron going back to Cleveland. I know they kind of ran the East and got to the finals pretty easily for the most part. But, could you maybe sold high on Kevin Love and get somebody else in to kind of match what the Warriors did with Kevin Durant? Because you got to think about this if you're Denver. You got to think about this. OKC's coming. Portland, if they're not trading Dame, then they're gonna make some moves to kind of get back in contention. Sacramento, so they still gonna be hanging around. The Spurs. Victor Wembanyama could change that franchise around just like that. Who knows? Zion. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, Zion. Shit.
Yep.
If he can focus on basketball. Oh, we had to touch on him for a second. But if he could just focus on basketball and stuff like that with the Pels, then that'll go a long way for them. It's a wait and see what the Phoenix Suns does. The Lakers, if they should hold on to that 17th pick, what we talk about here in a little bit. They should hold on to that pick to get somebody younger, but then keep Hugh Chamara, Reeves in the fold as well. Clippers, I don't know what the Clippers going to do with Kawhi and Paul George busted up. But it's just sometimes staying pat is not the best move. And if you can sell high on Gordon, and I maybe fuck this idea out to you. If you're Denver, I don't know if this team would go for it. And this team said they're gonna rebuild. That leaked sources say they're gonna rebuild. If you're Denver and this team really rebuilding, would you send Michael Porter Jr., Christian Braun, and maybe another contract for and some first round picks for Bradley Beal?
Ooh. I am intrigued. I mean, it's not a bad idea. We can talk about Bradley Beal all damn day. You know that man. He don't want to be. He's so stuck in Washington. I mean, I definitely would if I'm Denver. That's a score. You got your real big three now.
Because
You know what I'm saying?
I think about this. The salaries match up because you gave him that big contract. If they didn't get Porter Jr. that big contract, then I'm not floating that idea out. But if you're Washington, if you really, 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 really think about rebuilding, in which some reports are saying, I know you traded one big contract for another, but you getting the older player out for a younger one that you can try to sell on. You get another young wing player, first round picks, which is going to be like late in the draft, but it's still a first round picks. And if you're Denver, I continue saying, how can I get better? Yes, if I win the championship on Monday, the job ain't finished. I mean, yeah, the job's finished for there, but the draft next week, the couple weeks from there, all season a week after, how can I get better? How can I improve this team? Where can I get better? Like you mentioned, Thomas Bryant, DeAndre Jordan. I don't think Thomas Bryant has played much since he got to Denver. DeAndre Jordan, he's just there collecting a check. Can you get better there? Can you upgrade the starting lineup? Train wreck Porter Jr. There's a lot of questions there. That's just one idea I'm throwing out. My preferred plan, if they do trying to upgrade somewhere and get rid of Porter Jr., you find like mid-sized contracts, but players that can contribute very well, and you won't skip a beat there.
I definitely see that as a very good option. You looking at, like you said, you're going to have some of these. OKC is going to be good coming. Golden State is going to stick around. The Lakers should be pretty solid. Portland should, start being much better. You want to win this title here and come back, and want to keep your young group and continue to be kept competitive, possibly win a back-to-back. So, going to get a player like a Bradley Beal, I think that'll be a huge asset to them. Because, like I said, he's more efficient, he's more proven, and that's what you're going to need right now with the unit that you have. Because, to be honest, man, I think Miami is a pretty solid team that coach well, but they're not that really deep like that.
No.
I mean, we know that the offense is running through Jimmy Butler. So I don't know for sure if this same Miami team go back to the NBA Finals as it's set next year. I think you're going to run into a Milwaukee or possibly Boston or a team that is, fully healthy and can compete. I mean, I think if they're playing Boston right now, I don't think this is a 3-1 series at the moment. So going to get somebody like a Bradley Beal make a big difference because we're not if it was 3-1 to the Heat, we would be talking more so how Michael Porter isn't playing well. It'll be more news. Well, Denver players aren't coming around. They're key players like a Michael Porter isn't showing up. We have a different conversation around that. So for me, I think that you hear what's going on now, and I think that possibly moving him during the summer, going to get somebody like a Bradley Beal, that's not a bad idea at all.
No, I mean it's this idea, but like I said, you can't continue to expect him. Well, he'll come around. He tell us what to do, but you paying his big salary though. I, and we see in life in general, we like to get our money's worth of the stuff we contribute to, and Michael Porter's an investment, and if you feel like you ain't getting your money's worth in that big investment, then sometimes you gotta sell high on it. So this idea throwing out. Well, I mean, not to say they might not do it or not, but the NBA is a business. You always look to get better. So it's a wait and see. But before we move off the subject, Game 5, what's your prediction for Monday night?
Oh, I'm rooting for Miami to get the victory. I think Denver's going to be too much. You asked me this question is very similar to the question you asked me when you asked me about the Lakers and Denver, who's going to win the series. I wanted the Lakers to win, but I just, realistically, reality is showing, how good Denver is. I said Denver in 6, therefore it was actually 4. But now I want Miami to get this victory. Rooting for them to continue the series. But I think Denver is just too much. I actually think Michael Porter has one of those games that we're talking about. I think this is one of those games where he, shoots, 5 for 7, 4 for 7, 3-point land. Gets them going and makes the threes when they need it. So I think that I think it's going to be over, and I think Jokic is going to win the MVP. Jamal Murray's been playing extremely well this series as well, but I think it'd be well deserved if it's Jokic.
Yeah, I think Denver finishes the job. I think what we mentioned about Miami we talked about earlier. I think if guys like Strus, Vincent shoot the ball well, I think they go a long way in Miami's favor to win the game. And one thing, Bam Adebayo, one thing he got to stop doing is like shortchanging his hook shots down low. It's like sometimes he just like shortchange it and he just misses it and stuff like hit the back of the rim. It's like, dog, especially when Jokic is out, we should be really dominating. Like, quit shortchanging your shots down low. And I think Bam will clean that up. I think that will go a good way for Denver to win that game. But I mean, Miami win that game. But if Jimmy Butler, he got to get going. He got to get going from the jump. If that ain't happening, then Denver's gonna win this game. I think Jokic will have a big game. I think Jamal Murray will have a big game. And I think Eric Gordon have a good game. I think if those three at least have a good games out of those guys, I think they'll go and win Denver's favor. And I got Denver winning tomorrow night. But I think it'll be a close one. In my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely didn't want it to end just quick. Hopefully, it doesn't. But I mean, sometimes you just look at what's going on. I think what did it for me was that last game of Miami. You got Jokic in foul trouble, and they still couldn't get the victory. So I definitely think that it might be over tomorrow. Hopefully, they prove me wrong. But like the Nuggets.
And with all the stuff going on with Zion, maybe the league trying to push it out to 6 and keep the NBA Finals in people's minds somewhat. And speaking of Zion, let's quickly transition to that real quick before we get to the mock draft stuff. What this man does with this personal biz, I think you and I are probably in agreement. You know, he's an adult. Whatever, he can do what he wants. But I think from a basketball perspective, if you're a New Orleans fan and somebody in the front office, and somebody in the front office, ownership, whatever, you probably already know this stuff. Because, you know, we talking about the wealthy as the rich and wealthy that own these teams. They got tabs than, you know, more than we like. So they probably know this crap. But if you're the front office and stuff like that, and Zion hasn't been playing much like you had hoped, is it concerning that all this stuff is happening to him, coming out like this in your eyes? Because I just think, like, it seems like his focus is not trying to go on the court, staying healthy, keeping the weight off, all that type of stuff. And you got these chicks older than him, basically stringing him like a sucker. And his focus is not getting back on the court. His focus seems like on other things, as some of these messages that come about. What are your thoughts on if he can get his focus back on basketball, and can that turn his fortunes around to stay on the court?
Well, hopefully the biggest thing that matures a lot of people, men and women, is kids. When you have a kid, you know, a lot of people, they, you know, mature very quickly.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, correct. Hopefully. It's not always the case, but, you know, usually I've seen it a lot. So hopefully that does mature a lot. But I think that is one of the things that gets him to, you know, refocus. But this guy, the concerning thing is just the stuff that was said, you know, and it's kind of like he's just all over the place. He's not focused in on the game of basketball. He's doing everything outside of playing basketball, preparing himself to be the best basketball player. It actually makes you think about these different injuries he's having that is not just basketball related. So for me, hopefully he can get there. I'm hoping that he sees that this exposure that happened, that he needs to stay focused because things will come out, you know, and it will, you know, from the Ja Morant situation to this, they're not good looks either. You know, we go from talking about a guy having a gun in a video to another guy talking to some lady or having a kid, and then, you know, this young lady exposing him for having conversations with her or whatever. This can really distract you. And we've seen this PR put out him, you know, I think doing a donation or something like that, trying to throw things off, trying to get the focus somewhere else. So hopefully he can get that situated now. I think he was still having conversations with this lady, still stuff coming out. So, you know, I believe that the biggest thing that is going to help him refocus is that he's becoming a father now. And I hope, you know, like you said, hopefully that's the biggest thing that motivates him to stay focused, to be the player that he can be. Not only that, but be successful, which, you know, don't forget, we're talking about Zion, that when he is on the court, he is just one of the most athletic players that we've seen. And he makes a huge impact. But we got to get him to stay on the court, and stay focused. So he is at that age now where he's, what is he, 21, 22. He's not, has a lot of things going on, seeing a lot of attention, a lot of financial stability at an early age, So hopefully, like I said, this is just a bump in the road. I definitely think now with this part, at first it was just the injury thing, eating habits, all this stuff, and now, this other side stuff is coming out. Hopefully, this is what kind of gets him right on track because his potential is so high, for a long time. And if he can get there, I think he can be that player. But this just takes him focusing in. Everything has to get blocked out. That means you have to get off social media. That means that you don't need to be watching much TV or being out as much. Like just focusing on your game and perfect that. And once you do, you're in the league with one of the greatest players ever in LeBron, and you see what it has done for him. So look at it as an idol and see where you can go with it. But yeah, man, he has to get focused, man, because a few things that do end careers or kind of can destroy careers, injuries and relationship issues and off the court issues. You don't want those things to linger and continue because they won't go anywhere. Years and years and years. It only can get worse. So hopefully, he has learned his lesson.
I think, me and him, me and you don't make Zion money. But when you this young and whatnot, and you're making this type of money, you're at a different class. You should be in a different class and how you move. Yeah, I know you're talking about a young guy from from South Carolina and stuff like that. So a lot of things, we kind of been seeing through Twitter and whatnot is like real. I'm gonna keep my words clean. I ain't trying to disparage dude, but real rookie stuff, if that makes sense. And when you making the money he's making, you gotta think different. You gotta act different. And a lot of dependability falls on your shoulders. And just seeing the girl he took the pictures with, and then read up on her and her past, and her past dealings, and then the other one that been really exposed to him, the older one, who she said some wild stuff. Stuff I just really can't believe, and kind of flabbergasted that she says these things. But we're talking 23-3. Anybody can say anything without repercussions, and nobody will bat an eye. But when you're making this money, man, you gotta move different, and all that stuff. And just thinking, your preference, but if you're in the space, man, you gotta meet a female that is on your level. And he's in like the first big button and smile and going and diving head in. Like, no, dude, no. He's sitting there flying these women out, paying for this stuff, paying them per month when they move down to New Orleans. No, dude, you can't do all that stuff. You can't. And to circle back to the basketball part, to tack on to this, if you try and do all this stuff and not focusing on rehab and all that stuff and your soft tissue injuries and all that stuff, but you out doing all this mess here, that ain't a good look, man. It ain't a good look. I'm not saying over pro athletes over the years didn't have their vices and stuff like that. But, you know, Kobe, Jordan, Barkley, Shaq, etc. They probably had their vices and stuff like that, but it didn't deter them to stay on the court. So I'm just thinking, you know, is his focus on the right place? Same John Morant. Is his focus on the right place? With him, he still hang around his partners from back in South Carolina himself. Like I said, your money's different. You can't hang around with your partners from way back in because because they depend on you. And if you fall, then, you know, they don't lose nothing because you pay for everything. And take care of them. If you fall, it's not like you can ask them for help because, well, I don't really got nothing like that. It depends on you. So, you said, you know, hopefully, you know, bringing the child into the world, making focus and stuff like that. We'll see. But, you know, always not the case. You know, it's always not the case. You know, here recently, you know, I watched some of these episodes of Paternity Court on YouTube. Like, you know, some guys want to be in the child's life, some don't. Some take responsibility, some don't. Some women are reckless, some are not. But, you know, somebody's got to, like, talk to them and say, hey, man, don't get caught up in a lot of stuff that, looking down the road, your money gone. Just like that. And these girls trying to zap all your money out of you before you're 30 years old. That's the thing I'm more worried about. That his money potentially probably gone by he's 30 years old. And he's only, let's see, pull this up. And he's only 22 years old.
Yeah, so he's around that age.
And that's the damaged thing at all. Him and John Morant are at that same age. Like,
right.
Y'all got a chance to make an NBA contracts like almost to $1 billion worth in NBA contracts. And y'all pissing away in different styles. One being a knucklehead, and one that can't keep his Peter in his pants. And paying women just to pay women. No, dude, you can't operate in that space. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like, you, not only that, you put yourself in a position where you dealing with these women who they live off exposure. You know, they're known by the attention that they get, or what helps, you know, their profession is the attention that they get. So, like I said, I think he just he's having a child now and the baby's mother. Hell, at this point, once you post that, they're gonna do their full research on your baby's mom. So, you know, they have different stories with that, whatever the case may be. But when this comes out, it just does not go well. I believe I think I seen some other young lady post a picture, and somebody said Zion should have been talking to her, and she said he tried and got denied. So now, I don't know if it's a joke or whatever, but now he's the talk of the town with that. So, like I said, he has to know how to make the right decisions with, whoever he's talking to. But these guys around 21, 22, it's like they just need some kind of guidance and that mentor. And even if they do have that, you have to start listening to when your mentors are giving you these guidances, this advice, and also see what's going on, because this is not the first time we've heard, an athlete got exposed from a young lady that they dealt with that was in a different profession. This is not the first time we've heard the athlete have issues with having a weapon. Like, come on, man. Like, this is stuff that's not new. So hopefully these guys can get it together, man, because, at some point they got to continue living outside of basketball. But they have that opportunity to be able to put their life in a great space about 10 to 15, 20 years. But try to make better decisions moving forward, especially who we, communicate with as well. They're definitely going to get screenshotted. Those guys.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. I mean, the older one that was really, really mad, exposing a lot of things, she was going on for days. I think everybody was like cool with it for a little bit for a jokey joke, but after a while, she's like, "Okay, sister, you can wrap this up. I know you're mad about the African braids and stuff like that, but you let it go now, But anyways, hopefully, and like Terry Rodriguez said, everyone has to get their mind right. Yeah, that's true, but for some folks, they don't, and they never will. And that's the sad part. D-Lock, let's skim through this mock draft real quick that I posted for iSportsRadio.com. Just going through the mock draft real quick. I got the Spurs going Victor Wembanyama. I mean, I think that's the no-brainer pick. And Popovich, I don't know if he was on the fence of retiring here soon or not, but getting this kid, if he can turn him to like the next Duncan, then I don't think he'll continue coaching until he physically can. So I got Victor Wembanyama going number one overall. Is he the generational talent like ESPN will hype him up to be? I don't think he's that, but I do think he's probably the best prospect there. And if he's like a generational talent like they were hyping him up to be, the NBA and these TV networks should have done a better job promoting this guy on TV stations throughout the year. Just my saying. Instead of First Take, for example, just using First Take as an example, instead of talking about the same damn subjects, talk about this kid, bring this kid in for a segment, sit down with Stephen A., Kendrick Perkins, and J.J. Redick, or Tim Legler. Just my personal opinion there. Get the kid's name out there, the visibility, all that stuff. This is my 2 cents. But I got Victor going on number one. Number 2, D-Lock. A lot of scouts are really kind of getting behind Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson, which I always thought that as well. I got Brandon Miller going number 2 to Charlotte. And I think, if they can get rid of Gordon Hayward and fast track him there, I think it'll go a long way for their franchise. But do you see Brandon Miller going number 2? Or maybe do they take a chance on Scoot Henderson at number 2?
I'm not gonna lie. I think that I don't see Brandon Miller getting passed up by Charlotte. I was thinking Scoot as well, but I think Brandon Miller right now he's trending up. Outside of off the court issues, I think that right now he looks like that next guy. I mean, Charlotte at this point, hell, Jordan being Jordan. I think that he's going to take this pick. Now, hopefully, this is not a pick that Jordan messes up. So I do think that Brandon Miller does not go past 2. Any way that they go get Scoot, I think that you're fine with LaMelo there. We know that Gordon Hayward is already injury prone. Not too much a person that you can trust that much. I think that Brandon Miller is the perfect pick for them. I think that they get him and then Scoot falls to 3. Actually, that third pick is actually in question also.
Yeah, the third pick. I put Scoot Henderson there just because I think he's the best player available. And if Portland gets rid of Dame Lillard, in which, he's seen through Instagram and stuff like that lately, he's kind of, I don't know, like toying with the idea of maybe leaving. We'll see. That third pick is going to say a lot what's going to happen with the Portland Trailblazers. But if they kept this pick, I think they go Scoot Henderson, get a young point guard. You're not thrusting him into the starting role if you don't trade Damian Lillard. And I think, this is a year behind Lillard and stuff like that. And Lillard gets injured again. You got a nice backup there to maybe even grow more and stuff like that, get more experience. And then if the chance you do get rid of Lillard, now you got a nice core: Simons, Henderson, Sheldon Sharp. And then the other picks you got later on in this draft. But the Portland pick right there is it's interesting. Like if Portland got the number 2 pick, then they have no discussions trading him. Then I think Brandon Miller would be the pick, and I think things will keep on moving with Portland. I think Brandon Miller fit better with the squad. But this third pick, I think that's when the draft really, really gets interesting. Do Portland move it? Do they keep it? And do they keep it and then trade Dame and get their rebuild started there? Just a lot of questions there. Yeah. For Houston, I went with Ben Thompson. I think this pick here also depends what James Harden is going to do in free agency. Does James Harden stay in Philly with Nick Nurse in the fold right now for the Sixers? Or does he go back to Houston? I think.
Yeah.
I think if James Harden even does go back to Houston, the Jalen Green, Kevin Porter thing really hasn't worked out. Especially for Kevin Porter. Jalen Green, he's still a little bit younger, and maybe get more out of him with Coach Ime Udoka there. But I think getting Thompson there, and then Thompson, who's more like the combo guard of the Thompson twins, get him there if you don't make a move for Harden. Trade Kevin Porter, get him in that backcourt with Jalen Green, then you go about that way with that squad. So I got him in Thompson on number 4 right there. But I don't know if this pick would maybe be including a signing trade with Philly for James Harden. So that's something to keep in mind there. But do you see James Harden maybe going back to Houston? Or you think he stays in Philly with Nick Nurse in the fold now?
I mean, you know what? Before or Milwaukee or Houston hired. I'm sorry, not Houston. Before Toronto hired the guy they have. I got his name off the top of my brain. Darko Well, they got Darko. I was thinking that James Harden would be in Philly. I think that was going to happen. But I think now, with Nurse being over into Philly, knowing that now it seems like Toronto is probably going to clean house, I think that there's a chance that you're looking at a Van Fleet possibly headed to Philly. Um, I think they were already saying Gary Trent was already on the move. So for me, in my mind, I'm thinking that Harden is going to be in Houston, and I think I think he wants to be there. To be honest with you, man, I don't think he wants to stay in Philly. I think him being torn between them is the fact that he knows that he has a chance to win a championship in Philly. Yet he's already experienced being there, and he sees the expectations. He sees what's going to happen. So I think that the expectations that is in Philly is what is keeping him dangling them there. But Houston is where his heart is. Houston seems like where he wants to be. So I think he's going to land there. I actually think Philly makes a move, grab maybe Gary Trent and a couple other guys from Toronto.
So Houston is another interesting team. We'll see what they do. Do they continue to do the rebuild, or they try and get star players down in Texas? So that's another pick right there. You got to keep an eye on as well. 5. I went the Pistons. I went with Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. They can go a lot of ways here, but I think they're going more wing. And they got kind of like a glut down low that they got to figure out with guys like Isaiah Stewart, James Wiseman, Jalen Duren, Marvin Bagley. Got a lot of guys down low you got to get a lot of minutes to. And you got to kind of spread that out. Whitmore, I went because, nice young guy at Villanova, nice wing, can play the fast break, high flyer, can finish the rim with authority. Can play the passing lanes pretty well. And I think where I wrote, kind of will remind Monty Williams of kind of like a Mikal Bridges like he had in Phoenix. Came from the same cloth in Villanova and all that stuff. So I think this will be intriguing for Monty Williams to take this pick. I thought about putting like a point guard here because Kate Cunningham, like the past couple of years, he's just went out with injury and don't return. So you got like a little injury issue right there with him and stuff like that. So, but there was really a point guard. I was looking doing this. I mean, Anthony Black was a possibility, but we want like a point guard could put there. Like, can he surprise Clay Cunningham? I don't know, but I went with Whitmore here. I think it fills a void in that 3 spot, and I think replaces Sadiq Bey in that production that went away from there as well. Number 6 for your Orlando Magic. I went with the other Thompson twin, Ashir Thompson. Point guard was consideration, D-Lock, for your team. But I think, I don't know, you probably won't agree with this, but I kind of still holding out hope for Suggs, Fultz, and Cole Anthony to kind of get their stuff together. Because they really have been up to stuff since they arrived in Orlando.
Nope. I mean, you got the guys there, so but like you said, you're gonna keep replacing guys. They're definitely gonna do that.
So I went with Thompson here. I think, a nice wing player, different from his twin brother. He's more of a wing player than his brother, who's like a more ball handler. you know, and there's a high upside with him as well. So, Wendell Carter down low, Banchero, Ragnar, you know, you got those guys in the front court, Jonathan Isaac, if he's still around, and then you got Thompson, so you're not got a lot of pressure there. You got a lot of guys in front of him as well. But I went with the Thompson kid. I think he got a lot of upside and can develop behind those other guys I just mentioned for your Orlando Magic. But guard was really in consideration because those other guys really haven't been up to snuff here lately. And kind of looking down the barrel, like, can it ever get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the thing with them is they continue to rotate their guys and they don't develop them. You keep putting yourself in these positions, and some of these guys are not being developed. I mean, we were talking about the Denver Nuggets earlier in the show, and I mean, look at Eric Gordon now compared to the Eric Gordon that was in Orlando. So, I think that you get these guys that can play a huge part and that can play well, but you have to develop these guys. So if they can do that, then I think they won't continue to draft in the lottery continuously. But if you don't fix the main problem, you're going to keep bringing in guys over and over and over and get the same results.
Number 7 is the Pacers. I think they got just a hole at 4, stretch 4. I went with George Walker out of Houston. It was either him or Taylor Hendricks, but I think Walker does a little bit more offensively, doing the little things that I think that will go a long way with this team to kind of flesh out the roster better, playing up Miles Turner, down low and all that stuff. I think that'll work out better basketball fit wise. But it won't surprise me if they go with someone like Taylor Hendricks as well at that 4th spot. Now, it will surprise me if they took like a guard, because you already got like a glut of guards in the wings and stuff like that. So I don't see a guard in our eyes. So I think George Walker was the pick here. Just real quick, Washington Wizards. I went with Anthony Black here. They need somebody at the point guard spot. The Wizards they're talking about doing a rebuild. Kuzma is a free agent. I don't know if he can be brought back or not. So, it's just,
now you have to pay him. They'll have to pay him some. He's gonna ask for some money.
and
I don't know if he deserves it, but
so I don't know which way the Wizards will go. So I went with Black here because they need like a point guard. They really haven't had a strong point guard in years since John Wall left. Being real, and I know Russ had a nice season there with them and stuff like that, but I think more like John Wall. But I think Anthony Black, a big 6'7" guard, who could very versatile and stuff like that. But I think Porzingis, I'm curious what he does as well. So I went Anthony Black here. If you're rebuilding, you got at least a guard there to kind of get things going and stuff like that in that direction. Jazz, real quick. I went with Casey Wallace out of Kentucky. Jordan Clarkson's a free agent. Horton Tucker has a player option. I'm curious if he opts in or not. But, having said that, Colin Sexton, he's more of a 2 guard for your team. And Horton Tucker opts out, then you need another guard who can play the point. And I think Wallace can, play that part for them. Utah's not in a rebuild mode anyway, so Why not take a young guy, let him develop, and then you lose Clarkson and Tucker. You at least you got this kid in the fold to develop, and you got Colin Sexton there as well to handle duties as point guard duties as well. 10, D-Lock, I think this is another pick right here that could be moved for another team. The Dallas Mavericks.
I can see that too.
A lot of question about Kyrie. A lot of question, what the team going to put around Luka. They already said they're going to not bring back Christian Wood. JaVale McGee was a waste of a signing. So, at this 10 pick, I put Taylor Hendricks here out of UCF. Big man that can move. Should easily replace Dwight Powell at that 4 spot at least.
That's what I have.
And it can do a lot more than what he does. And I think they need help down low in a bad way. And I think hopefully, and they better hope if they keep this big, Taylor Hendricks can help in the worst way. 11 for your Orlando Magic. Kind of keep up with the wing thing. I went with Grady Dick, wing player out of Kansas. Kind of help out with this shooting and spacing. Thompson, what would y'all ever pick? I think the potential to be a starter and stuff like that, a quality starter in the league. Dick, I think, is a good role player. Spacing, all that shooting and stuff like that. More, I think, like, Tyler Hero, Seth Curry, those type of guys I kind of think of in that mold. So I think, for your Magic, you got like a lot of nice athletic upside guys and scores, but you need some shooting also. So I think Grady Dick can work in that favor for y'all.
Yeah, that's what I had. I mean, I had knowing that the inconsistency at that position, not having so much pressure on Paolo Banchero, who's going to grab more attention from defenders this year. Usually what happens is a rookie has a hell of a season. They're probably going to start game planning for this kid, most of the time that happens. So I expect that you're going to need somebody to come in like a Grady Dick to make a big difference. And like I said, I think that the Magic, if they can, again, it's about developmental. If they can continue to develop Paolo the way they are, bring some other pieces around them. With Franz there as well, I think they will be pretty solid for years to come. But this is a talk that happens every couple of years with the Magic. So hopefully something can change. But dude, I'm literally tired of seeing them picking the lottery. It seems like it happens every year, over and over and over and over.
Just going by some picks real quick, and we'll hit on some teams here. OKC, Derek Lively, center out of Duke. I think OKC got every spot covered except for the center position, and taking a flyer on Lively, who got some potential. You're not running a Rick Rush, so I think you take him here and let him develop and see when you got him down the road. The Raptors at 13. I got them taking Nick Smith Jr. out of Arkansas. They need another guard there. They got a lot of combo guards, but you need like a true point, but you need like a point guard there. And, it also depends, what they do. Do they get rid of Siakam? Van Fleet has a play option. OG Onyebuye has been on a trade block for the past year. Does he stay part of this roster? But I think they take Nick Smith Jr. just because they got a lot of length and stuff like that in the wing and down low position. So I think you take a guard here if you're the Raptors. Skipping around, the Lakers at 17. I went with Jordan Hawkins out of UConn. Now, this kid could go earlier. This kid got some dog in him, got some upside, can shoot the ball. You know, if you could kind of compare him and Cam Whitmore out of Villanova, you almost kind of see it's almost like the same player. But for the Lakers at 17, I'm thinking like, and where I wrote, D'Angelo Russell had 4 months to show the Lakers they could be part of the franchise long term again. But his playoff play left a lot to be desired. My thing with the Lakers, you can't trade this pick for the fuck's sakes of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You got to keep the pick. You made the playoffs. You got to keep the pick. Get some young guy and come and let him develop. Instead of taking flyers on, and no shade to him, like a Lonnie Walker, for example, stuff like that. We can't continue doing that and stuff like that, and then get bored with him months down the road and trade him and revamping the whole roster around. Get somebody y'all like this kid here, if he falls to y'all. Good size, 6'5", all that stuff. Very athletic, can fly, play up the court, won a championship at UConn. Has that pedigree to him. So let him come in and let him develop. But he's too good to pass. If he's at 17, he's too good to pass up. And also, you kind of need somebody just in case Austin Reeves leaves. If the money gets too high for him to match. So I got the Lakers taking Jordan Hawkins out of UConn at 17.
That'll be an excellent pick too.
This also just going real quick before we get out of here. The Brooklyn Nets had 2 back-to-back picks. I took 2 high upside players because I think Brooklyn will take a tumble next season. And I think, take a Leonard Miller out of the G League, a guy who at one time was considered like a top 5 pick. With the G League, had a good year, but I think other guys kind of lapped him. But you're talking about like a 6'10" forward who can be a two-way player, especially offensively. I think you grab him and get that potential there. I think if he can be that top 5 pick, like a lot of us envision, I think they'll go a long way for Brooklyn down the road. But we talked about in the past with the Brooklyn Nets, do they got the right people to develop these guys? I talked about blue in the face by Cam Thomas and let him shine, but Jock Vaughn didn't let that happen.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering. I put 2 high upside kids here. Kobe Bumpkin out of Michigan. Same thing. Spencer Dinwiddie didn't play the best when in his return to Brooklyn. Can Jock Vaughn have this kid ready this case? Dinwiddie's play kind of goes downhill. There's a lot of questions right there for Brooklyn. Can Jock Vaughn develop these guys? I think he can.
It's just crazy to think that this is the same team we've seen that had the big 3. You remember me saying that this was the team that had one of the most talented rosters, and this is what they came down to.
Yep. So we'll see on that one. Else looking around, Utah. They got a pick from Philly. I had them taking G.G. Jackson out of South Carolina. A kid who reclassified last year and played for South Carolina after decommitting from North Carolina. potential. This is like a more potential pick. If he develops something good, then Utah got to steal. But I think the kid that you stick him in the G League for a little bit, bring him up to the main roster. You doing that with them for the most of the year. But if you stick, drafting in Utah, he ain't no pressure to be the guy. You know what I'm saying? Laurie Markin in there. Walker Kessler. There's also, the other guys they got there. Ain't not a lot of pressure there to be the dude at Utah. One last thing, the Clippers. I got to take in Brandon Podziemski at Santa Clara. A guy that transferred from Illinois came in with the Broncos, averaged 20 points, 8 rebounds, almost 9 rebounds a game. I know Steve Ballmer doesn't want to do a rebuild, D-Lock. That's been noted in the past, but I did this pick here because this case he doesn't want to do a rebuild and you get a guy in that can contribute right away, but and potentially replace the production that Luke Kennard left with. But if you Steve Ballmer, you gotta be. Sometime down the line, you gotta be looking to rebuild, my guy.
This is true.
I know y'all moving to the Forum here soon. I know you trade all those picks away for Paul George. But I think sometimes you gotta reset things and kind of, reevaluate a lot of things. And the Kawhi Leonard thing really hasn't panned out. Paul George has worked out some. Do they bring back Russ? I don't know. John Wall didn't work out. All that stuff. So the Clippers got some questions there. But I think, when I look at this draft D-Law before we got out of here, a lot of depth at wing in this draft. And I think, we've seen in basketball the past couple of years, you need some talented wings to kind of put you over the hump. When the team's going smaller and whatnot, you're going to need that wing depth to carry your team. So, the days of true point guard are kind of slowly going away. The days of the true center are going away. The power, the 6'10" power forward going away. Mid-range power forward going away. Now, some of these guys I named out will fit better in today's basketball.
Right. And that's why, to piggyback off that or circle back around to the Michael Porter thing, this is why I think, if you're Denver, you're aiming high with them because that's what the league is going towards. Hell, we see Denver all the time take Jokic out and move Eric Gordon to the 5. So this is what we're seeing on the use, on a lot now. So teams are going to move towards that. And if your big can't shoot, at this point, there's probably no use because we see what the hell Joe. And every time I watch Jokic, it's just crazy. Seeing some of the shots he's throwing up, the moves that he's making, he looks like he's above 7 feet and moving like a point guard. So B who's doing damage as much. So yeah, you're right. These players that you're naming that possibly get drafted, I think they're fitting in today's league. But definitely being able to be athletic is what you're needing right now.
Yeah, that's very true. And then I know I did my draft a few days ago, and then Shams putting out a tweet saying Chris Livingston at Kentucky. He probably has to promise from a team in the first round. So Chris Livingston got another wing player, 6'6" wing player. So you talk about another guy, that young guy that's got a promise going somewhere. I don't know. But lot of intriguing pieces, for this year's draft. And I think a lot of nice young players going to be drafted, but I think some veteran names going to be moved around also. So I think when we do our draft live stream and stuff like that, it's going to be talked about. And we're going to talk about, these young guys, how they fit in, whatnot, and go from there. But, overall, when I did this mock draft, I think it's pretty good, Kind of get my words right and stuff like that. I think it came out pretty good in my eyes. So, we'll see how it plays out here in a couple weeks from now. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here on the algorithm, here on I Sports Radio. Thank y'all. I know we ran a little late, but thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all have y'all attention span for all this time. Like I said, Game 5 tomorrow night. Both of us got Denver to finish out the series. In 5 in Denver, with Jokic probably being Finals MVP. And all that good stuff. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media?
You guys can find me at Black-813. I'll definitely be talking about the game tomorrow. Definitely check it out, because this might be the end of the NBA season, regular season. We move into the off season. I'll let know you can find you on the show's page.
You can find the show's page on Twitter at FastBreakerIESR. That is FastBreakIESR. Do follow me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. As we sit here, I'm looking at the Lynx beating the Sparks. So they're 2-7 in the season. In the WA's Commissioner's Cup. So the Sparks have some players out as well. But I think the Lynx should just continue to suck and get Caitlin Clark out of Iowa next year's draft. But that's just me. She'll fit in nice with that crowd in Minnesota. But I do know a show on the side called The Crooks Process. Do follow the show's page on Instagram and Facebook. And I do my shows through Spotify now. Also, do check out IESportsRadio.com for your latest shows, news, and feeds. We got a lot of new faces here on the network. So do check them out. Do check out IESportsRadio.com. You see those new shows promoted on the website. Texas, Miami, Phoenix back in the fold, Seattle back in the fold. So a lot of good shows coming back into the network. Do tune in. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to y'all next week with the potential of the NBA Finals ending, NBA Draft wrapping up, free agency news, WNBA scores, college basketball transfers still going on right now. So a lot to talk about, here in the coming weeks. But until then, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.